Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. I am back. Q is back because sleep is for suckers. I said, hey, Q, can I take a nap? And Q said, I guess not. I guess I'll just keep going. I feel kind of dumb for asking now. Post 2429. 24 minutes after the hour of midnight, we get this post 2042 from back on August 31st. And this was talking about a special approval. I'm assuming this was either the code or the visa number that was set up for Natalia Veselnitskaya, and that was by way of Aunt Loretta, being Aunt Loretta Lynch. Looks like there was a paper trail in the process, right? Now, she was the one who set up the meeting at Trump Tower with Manafort and Trump Jr. and Jared Kushner. And the premise was kind of that there might be some dirt on Hillary. She ended up wanting to talk about the Magnitsky Act. So this was our first kind of Russian collusion situation, right? And that led to the FISA of Manafort. And that, of course, then Mueller ended up going after Manafort. Then we had the FISA on Papadopoulos, which is about to come to light probably now. Another illegal FISA warrant with this strange sort of meeting that wasn't really a meeting, but then Mueller ends up looking into Papadopoulos. Then we get this FISA warrant for Page, and this one is a really big one because they don't want to let us know who signed off on that one. But then, of course, that subsequently led to Mueller going after Page. Now, remember, he's the one that has not been prosecuted for anything. Flynn also, and Flynn was. So Flynn, Papadopoulos, Manafort have all been charged, but Page has not. And then Q says you must target, remove, and silence all those illegally targeted for FISA surveillance plus UK assist. UK assist plus FISA surveillance include all upstream collection, tangent contacts, umbrella surveillance. Yeah, essentially, they wanted to get these FISA warrants on these guys so that they could not only spy on them, but spy on their contacts and their messages and all the people that were related to them. So we don't really know how many people got spied on, but we do know that President Trump, of course, was in that wake somewhere underneath this umbrella surveillance. Foreign target designators create leapfrog hops to isolated real targets, non-foreign comms under Section 702. Remember, Section 702 deals with foreign nationals living outside the United States. And then this, I have a feeling, is just kind of an example of how certain people are talking to the media back and forth. Remember, we had this generation of this Christopher Steele dossier, and it was going through things like BuzzFeed and then Yahoo and then eventually to the New York Times, Well, that's all starting to come to light now. And we get this Twitter link here to George Papadopoulos. And he's been talking a lot on Twitter lately. And he posts, the guys with illegal FISAs on them by the Obama administration, me, Page, Flynn, Manafort, have been silenced. A FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, on my FISA should be very interesting reading in case declassification doesn't occur. Shocked, the New York Times is asking for Page's FISA to remain sealed. Okay, so it sounds like the stage is getting set. And below that, George tweeted this here from the Weekly Standard. Why is the New York Times suddenly opposed to declassifying the FISA docs? In February, one reporter filed to have information about Carter Page's warrant released. Now, the paper worries about security concerns. Last Monday, President Donald Trump told the Justice Department and the FBI to declassify unredacted versions of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrant applications used to get wiretaps on Carter Page. The president also called for other materials, such as Bruce Orr and Christopher Steele's email correspondence, to be revealed. But by Friday, Trump had backed off, tweeting that the Department of Justice had persuaded him to let the DOJ Inspector General vet the documents first. That way, a perceived negative impact on the Russia probe could be avoided. Excuse me. It would also calm key allies who had called to ask not to release. But the pushback hadn't just come from government. Some media made the case, a rather counterintuitive one for journalists to make, that the information not be released. Most prominently, the New York Times decried as terribly dangerous the very idea of making the FISA materials public. The headline of a September 18th article signaled the newspaper's disapproval, ignoring security concerns, Trump to make Russia documents public. In this article, author Adam Goldman suggested that the remaining redactions of the FISA warrant regarding Carter Page should stay under wraps, given the concern of the intelligence community and members of the law enforcement. The intelligence crowd, you see, were angry that redacted versions of the FISA warrant applications had been declassified and released by the Trump administration in July. Goldman wrote that they believed that the information should not have been made public and that its release set a dangerous precedent by making public secret methods of investigation. Okay, well, if you'll remember, Q has talked about this, is that the Trump administration has already called to declass this. It's been Rod Rowe that has basically been trying to sideline this, right? Well, this fourth FISA warrant leads directly to Rod Rosenstein. Now, remember, Rod Rosenstein was the one who signed off on the extension for the fourth FISA warrant having to do with Carter Page. All these people who signed off on these FISA warrants now have grand juries into them, and that's a lot of people, and I would assume it includes the judges too. We'll find out more about that soon, but we still have to hear the whole Papadopoulos story. So Papadopoulos is now starting to come back into the media, and I think there's a great interview that you really need to see off of Dan Bongino. It's from a couple days ago. I'm sorry, I don't know what date it was. I think it was just a couple days ago, but look, Dan Bongino, George Papadopoulos interview. I highly suggest you check it out because it's the most, it's absolutely ludicrous what they've put this man and his wife through. Now, this guy was a little bit knuckleheaded for taking these meetings, but he was young, didn't exactly know what he was doing. And he most certainly was not a traitor. But you get a lot more insight into how that meeting was set up, the illegalities of it, and mostly just the ridiculous nature of it. Because here you have supposedly these two guys meeting, but you have sort of this third person kind of point of view. So what was happening with this information and who was who? You're going to get a much better picture if you listen to that interview. I highly suggest it. But for the sake of moving on, let's move on because Q says D-class coming. Remain in the public light. Safety. Yeah, as long as George Papadopoulos is speaking out, he can make sure that everyone has to talk about it. There's a lot of people that hate George Papadopoulos, particularly the unhinged left, of course. But we know that this is where it starts, right? We know that this is what sets up the whole Russian collusion. Were these four FISA warrants. They took guys like Papadopoulos, Carter, and they tried to tie Manafort. Now, Manafort was guilty of things, and he, was, of course, was tied up with some businesses in the Ukraine, and that eventually leads us to the Podestas. So, interesting timing that Q mentioned in the last video that we, about the unsealed indictments with the Podesta brothers. Should be fun. Looks like I'm starting to smell some bacon on this Whopper. 24:30. 42 minutes after the hour of midnight, we get this Twitter link right here where we see these couple of cuties right here with the Q sign. Do you see us, Q? We love you. Where we go one, we go all. This is from Free Speech Isn't Free at Mama Didn't Raise. Do you see us, Q? Reporting for duty. Check that out. They're all stoked right in front of a Vote to Make California Great Again sign. I'm not exactly sure where this is, but this is very cool, Patriot. Well, guess what? Q saw you. Eyes on, Patriots. History books. Q. Post 24:31. We get this right here 9 minutes after the hour of 1 a.m. It's time to unite and fight for our freedom. Together we are strong. Apart we are weak. Patriots have no skin color. Q. There was a time when our children stood at attention, put their hand on their heart, and in one united voice recited the Pledge of Allegiance. There was a time when strength and honor meant something. There was a time when standing for our flag meant something. There was a time when our history was taught with pride and respect. There was a time when respect was given to those who served, bled, and died to protect and defend our God-given freedom. There was a time when we were grateful. There was a time when these United States of America, one nation under God, was united. There was a time when these United States of America, one nation under God, was united under one flag. There was a time when we, the people, decided our future. There was a time when we, the people, had a voice. There was a time when we, the people, were united and strong. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to them to do the same, or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness. And that's from Ronald Reagan. There's a great video that plays a little nice music and plays that quote from him. It is time we the people reclaim what is rightfully ours. Will you answer the call? Your country needs you. Your vote matters. We stand together. Be on your guard. Stand firm in the faith. Be courageous. Be strong. And that's from 1 Corinthians 16:13. Well, that beautiful American spirit was on full display yesterday in Missouri. It looked like at the rally here for President Trump, there was a medical emergency in the crowd. Many of you guys caught this. President Trump was incredibly graceful, especially considering how long of a day it was for him. And I'm sure all the people waiting to get in. And they all began to sing while she was being attended to. And here's a clip of that video.
God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, particularly those who are not from the United States or have never been to the United States, I would like to point out that that right there is America. Post 2432, 5 minutes after the hour of 2 a.m. And Anon says, Q, may God bless us all today. Q says, amen, Patriot. We are grateful. Yeah, grateful indeed. You know, grateful to see these rallies. Not just because Trump is doing such a good job, but because the country really is uniting. People are acting respectably again. And that's a perfect example of it right there. The video that I just showed you, people coming together regardless and just feeling good and being together and getting together and feeling good about feeling good. And I think we could all use a little bit more feeling good. Yeah. Let's move on to 2433. 16 minutes after the hour of 2 a.m., we get this tweet from George Papadopoulos. The death threats and slander have begun. That can only mean one thing: declassification of FISA abuse and the exposure of the attempt by Australia and the UK to sabotage Trump is near. And this just says it here again. Well, this is true, and we just talked about it in the previous post, right? The more George Papadopoulos starts talking, and he has, it shows that it's time for him to make sure that nobody forgets about him. You don't want to forget about this guy. Next thing you know, he's going to turn up missing. So he's talking to keep himself safe, right? To keep himself out there on Front Street. Now, love him or hate him, and I think most people, that have been paying attention realize that this guy was just sort of a patsy. He might have been a little bit of a knucklehead, but he's no traitor. And then there, of course, are all those people that would like to see this guy go down. Now, he got a very small sentence. It was just a matter of days, and he'll have to serve that out. We'll see what happens. But it looks to me like it's time for him to start talking so that we can go back to FISA. And the only way to settle it would be to declass, which likely has already been done, right? So thoughts and prayers to George Papadopoulos, because he's going to be going through quite a bit, particularly over the next couple weeks. I think that his story is going to go well through midterms as we start to talk about declass once we figure out what happens today. But let's move on for now. Q says, we put on the spotlight on him for this very reason. He has no choice now but to remain in the light. This is not a game. Yeah, precisely. So whatever happens with him, there's no choice now. We've got to settle this beef, and it's a big beef with bacony cheesy goodness on it. 2434, 19 minutes after the hour of 2 a.m. Anon says, once you take care of yours, please help Canada. Q says the world will follow. Think Merkel. And how about that? Merkel got murked, right? Looks like she's stepping down. It looks like there is sort of a global changing of the guard. So hang in there, our Canadian friends, as well as our friends over the pond. We know so many people now that are saying, whereas before it used to be kind of like you can keep Trump. Now everyone's begging for Trump to come over there. They're begging for Q to come over to their country. Well, hopefully this FISA declass will start this global set of dominoes to start falling, and we can work our way there. But Merkel is a great example. It's a great sign. Here was a former power who was really, really somebody who was a perfect example of this new world order, right? And now with that sort of narrative changing, she is no longer a power player, and it's exciting to see. Post 2435. 25 minutes after the hour of 2 a.m. Voting meme, voting meme, voting meme. We are counting on you. Yeah, like I said in the previous video, this is fourth quarter, so get your memes going. Don't be afraid to ruffle a few feathers. Get it sent out there and make sure that your voice is heard. And if you do need to stand in line to vote, you got to do it. You're one of those late voters. Go ahead and do it. It's totally worth it. Finally, post 2436, 44 minutes after the hour of 3. The entire world is watching. Patriots from around the world are praying for America. We are all bound by a feeling deep inside, a feeling that cannot be publicly expressed for fear of ridicule, a feeling that challenges the mainstream narrative against that which we are told to accept and dare not question. Put simply, that people are being abused by those in power and time is running out. Remember the battles of Lexington and Concord. Give me liberty or give me death. For far too long, we have been silent and allowed our bands of strength that we once formed to defend freedom and liberty to deteriorate. We became divided. We became weak. We elected traitors to govern us. We allowed evil to prey on us. Those who claimed to represent us gave us false hope, made false promises. The evil and corruption only grew. This is more than party politics. This is about restoring old glory. This is about saving our land and our people from those who wish us harm. This is about preserving our republic. This is about preserving our safety. This is about restoring our strength. This is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is about protecting our children. This is about saving America. We are all God's children. We are fathers, we are mothers, we are daughters, we are sons, we are brothers, we are sisters. We do not look at race. We do not look at skin color. We are united in these states of America. We are and will always be patriots. We must rise again. We must unite again. We must fight again for God and country. Please answer the call and vote. God bless America. Where we go one, we go all. Q.